Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
As well, but I don't sell any longer. And even if I did, the revenue that I generated was nothing compared to the massive agents that I had.
Right.
And what's the point of being a leader of a company that doesn't generate any revenue?
Right.
And so for me, it's all about leading in a way that helps our agents do two things. And I've kind of boiled it down to this: how do you help them make more money and live a better life?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're able to do that, then everything else I want to accomplish. And I was taught this by my mentor. I spend 80% of my time on that. So if I'm able to do that, everything else that I want to do, 2, 3, 4, 5, kind of just happen automatically as a result of focusing my time on what I feel is the most important thing.
How long have you had a mentor?
So I've had Emmett since 2014. So 10 years. And what's kind of crazy is when I did my Ironman, he was at the finish line, not for me. He was there because his son was racing. Now Emmett's 84 and his story is remarkable. And his son, who's in his 50s, was racing the Ironman, and he unfortunately couldn't finish. But Emmett stuck around and waited for me at the finish line. I have a great picture. This is video, so I'm gonna show this photo, because this photo of Emmett and I at the finish line could not be more appropriate of what it was in our relationship together. So that for the viewers, I can see it. That's me hugging Emmett in complete and utter tears. Because I think, interestingly enough, everything that he taught me was actually valuable in the Ironman. But Emmett was the brother-in-law of one of the CEOs of the company that I ran in Florida. And he, growing up, mind you, he's 84. Growing up, he's like in his teens in New Jersey. He was in a gang. Mm-hmm. And when he graduated high school, his parents thought he was going to get in a lot of trouble and get killed. So they tried to force him to go to college. Goes to college, drops out after one day. Maybe this is why him and I get along so well. And he was so crazy that he was afraid of heights, and he enrolled as a paramilitary trooper in the Army. Okay. Serves our country for a few years, comes back. He's homeless and an alcoholic living in a shelter. And during the day, washed dishes for a restaurant and loaded boxes for UPS at night. Fast forward, he ended up helping run UPS worldwide.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's been my mentor, still is, even though I no longer work with that company. Just him and I have a bond that is forever there.
Wow, that's incredible, man. What a great story. I love that. Okay. So let's talk for just a second about the triathlon thing. So yeah. How do you come to a place to where you decide that you're going to start training and competing in triathlons?
So that's my very first triathlon was actually 2005. I did it to raise money for kids with cancer. And then I did one. And then I did one in like Colorado just for fun. But I really didn't get into racing until like 2010. So 2010, 2011, I did a lot of races. I probably did like 20 races during those 2 years. The most I ever did was a half Ironman. I never done the full. At the end of 2011, got into CrossFit, did CrossFit till 2019. 2019, I got FOMO because I'm seeing all my friends on social media racing. So I figured I'd do both. And gradually just started picking up racing again in 2019, even during, got shut down for a while because of the pandemic, but then got back into it. Moved to Texas, and last year So I have a vision board. Okay. I'm going to show you this vision board.
Show us the vision board.
It's that vision board. It's right next to my TV.
There
Okay.
you go.
That's my personal vision board. And the other one is my business vision board.
You have to look at it every day.
Yep. And the beauty of living on your own is you can decorate your house any way you want. So
There you go.
front and center. And the way the Ironman came about was so I moved out in January of last year. I'm a complete mess. March rolls around. I go down to Miami, reconnect with my family, reconnect with my son. And I'm like, you know what? I got to wake up with purpose. So created this vision board. It's written. It's not pictures, so that I don't get lost in I don't know, looking at a bunch of pictures makes me anxious. Plus, it doesn't really personify what I want. I wanted it to be specific. And I had put on there a couple goals, right? It was to do the Ironman in November, escape Alcatraz, which was a race I did in June of last year, get promoted, all this stuff. So in June of last year, in 1 week, I escaped Alcatraz on a Sunday. I got promoted on Wednesday, and I closed on my new home on a Friday.
There you go.
Check. Ironman didn't happen because I wasn't exactly sure what my new life was going to look like with the new role. And I've traveled so much. And then, so I check off all these things, and here I go about my day, right? Going about. And I remember in October, I was doing a trip in North Carolina and was speaking to a group of about 200 agents. And at the time, professionally, I was crushing it, still am. But personally, like, I was in a rut. And I'll never forget, I'm looking at the crowd, and this kid off to the right, like, we opened it up for Q&A, gets up and he's like, okay, so let me ask you a question. You seem like a motivated guy. Why do you think people fall off the bus of motivation? And interesting question, because I was in a personal rut. They don't reset their goals. Like, you accomplish your goals. Again, I had on there, get promoted, buy my house, escape Alcatraz, check. And I never really went and reset my goals.
Right. So what's after that, right?
Yeah. And I have a theory behind that. And professionally, I knew what I was waking up to every day. Personally, though, besides my boys, I really didn't have this purpose. And I came back, and that weekend is when I signed up for the Ironman, which I ultimately completed in April. And what happens a lot, Mike, is we're always told that the goal line's always moving. The goal line's always moving. And so you reach your goals, and like, you don't have to reset them, because you're feeding into the goal line always moving. I really started thinking about it. I'm like, it's not that the goal line's moving. That game's over. Like, the game's playing a new game.
Right.
And so that's ultimately how the Ironman came up, was because I was asked this question in Charlotte, North Carolina, by a kid about why people lose motivation at a point in time in my life where personally I was just going through a rut. And that's how it came up.
Isn't it amazing? Some kid in Charlotte that you've never met before in your life asks you a question, and it completely rocks your world.
Yep.
Right? Because you're in front of all these people, and you have to answer this question that really ultimately is about accountability to yourself. Right? You're either accountable or you're not, one of the two, right?
And I told him, I was like, I'm kind of going through it right now.
Yeah.
And my answer would be, I never reset my goals, and that ultimately is what it is. So, I'm staring at it. I got Ironman checked off. I do the escape from Alcatraz again in 3 weeks. I'll check that off.
Okay, so you mentioned escape from Alcatraz, and for people that don't know, including me, I have no idea what this is. What's the escape from Alcatraz? Tell us what it is.
Well, let's define Ironman and Alcatraz. So Ironman is the longest distance triathlon you can. I mean, there's ultra, but like, it's sanctioned events. It's the longest Ironman you can do. Ironman's the longest distance you can do. It's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and then a full marathon, 26.2 mile run. My goal was under 14 hours. I did it in 13 hours, 19 minutes, and 29 seconds.
Wow.
Escape from Alcatraz, which I said I would never do again, and here I am doing it again in 3 weeks, is also a triathlon, where the swim portion is you load up in a boat, a ferry, with about 2,000 other swimmers, and they ferry you out to Alcatraz Island, and they open the doors, and you start jumping in the water, and that boat empties out in about 9 minutes.
Mhm.
2,000 swimmers. You literally walk the plank, jump in, and you escape Alcatraz Island to the mainland. And then once
How
you're on
far
the
is that?
should be 1.5 miles. When I did it last year, the current was so strong. Me and about half the race missed the swim exit, and we got pushed out by a mile past the exit. So I ended up
Oh
swimming
my
2.5
goodness.
miles. Yeah, then I
How
had to
does
run
that
back.
work?
So they have where they have the swim exit. They know that the currents are so strong
Yeah.
that there's a beach that you can get out. And ultimately, I got out at the beach, a mile down shore.
And then what do? You hoof it back?
Run back barefoot to your bike.
No
And then,
way.
yeah, and then you
For a
bike.
mile?
Yeah. And then you bike 18 miles through San Francisco, which is like that, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
And then and then when you're done, you have an 8-mile run through San Francisco as well.
Wow.
Gnarly.
Wow, that is incredible.
It's fun.
That's incredible, man. That is
Yeah.
so cool. Okay. Talk a little bit about the mentality of you do your first triathlon in 2005,
Yeah.
and you're doing it to raise money for cancer, right? Talk a little bit about the mentality that you have to start training for and then ultimately doing a triathlon. I mean, you gotta admit something, right? Now I've never run a marathon. I used to run a 10K a day. That was about the best I did. But I lost a ton of weight and great shape and all that. But there's a mentality, and I have friends that are Ironman triathletes, there's a mentality to it. Talk about that for a second, because it's not there's a very very small percentage of people in this world that do this.
Yeah.
Talk about it for a second.
For me, the mentality, and I honestly couldn't even tell you what my mentality was in 2005. I mean, that was 19 years ago. So I couldn't even tell you. I would tell you for the Ironman itself, it was all about capacity.
Yeah.
Like, people thought I was crazy. They're like, hey, you're traveling for work and you have your kids and you're single now. So you have your single life and you have all that stuff. Like, you don't have time to do this.
Mhm.
And to me, I'm fascinated by what's on the other side of my breaking point.
Yeah.
And it got tested a lot. But I ultimately crossed the finish line, and
Yeah.
something that I thought, I joke, I said I made the extraordinary ordinary.
Mhm.
And so for me, it's all about capacity. It's all
Yeah.
about what's my breaking point. Maybe I'm
Mhm.
thinking that way, but I think what we think is our breaking point is not.
Yeah.
But there's only one way to find out.
That's
You got
true.
to test it, right?
Yeah, you
Uh,
never know what you're capable of, right?
You don't. And yeah, like I had to make a lot of sacrifices and there were days that I was waking up at 5 a.m. because I'm in some city somewhere and I had to run an hour and a half or swim and go to the local YMCA or jump on the Peloton in the hotel and do it. But for me, I was committed to it. I wasn't interested. I was committed. And when you're committed to something, you don't find excuses, you find ways.
Yeah.
So the mentality for me was just from a capacity standpoint, could I do it?
Yeah.
And
So
also for my boys too, right?
training for the triathlon,
Yeah.
are you so is there of all the three activities, of all the three things that you do, is there one in particular that you train more for?
Uh, yeah, so that's a super interesting question, right? Because I trained over 400 hours for ultimately what was a 13-hour race.
Mhm.
And in that, really shows you that you have to really enjoy what you're doing,
Mhm.
because about 25% of those who started that day did not finish.
Yeah.
And imagine, if you didn't enjoy the journey and you didn't finish, how miserable you would be. So you
Right.
really enjoy the journey. Well, I would tell you that I would probably spend more time on the bike only because
Mhm.
the bike is the biggest. If you were to look at overall time, I was spending 10 hours a week on the bike, if not more.
Gotcha.
Probably more than that, actually, now that I think about it. And then you spend a lot of time running and you would swim, but swimming ultimately is the shortest portion of the race.
Gotcha.
What was really interesting during this journey was if I were to look at the three disciplines, They were in order from my weakest to strongest,
Right.
swim, bike, and then run. But back in like February, I had done a monster weekend. I had Saturday, I think I biked for 5.5 hours and then I ran 30 minutes off the bike. Sunday, I had a 16-mile run. I woke up Monday and my ankle was like that big.
Oh my gosh.
And I ended up having tendonitis in my ankle, couldn't run for like a month.
Oh
Like straight
wow.
couldn't run. I could only swim and bike. What was really interesting about that though was it really allowed me to focus on my weakest thing, which the way I looked at it was I'm like, okay, Alex, you can always run. Like
Mhm.
you're always going to be a runner. It's in my blood. It's just who I am. Swimming though, this is an opportunity to focus on swimming. And what's really interesting was I swam. My goal was between an hour 20 and an hour 30. I did it in an hour and 23 minutes. My friends had me on video coming out of the water. And I was like, man, that was effing great. Like I could have
Mhm.
swum forever. I was so fresh. And it really set the tone for the rest of my race.
Right.
There was no way I would have been in that great a shape from a swim perspective had I never hurt my ankle. And so what was interesting, my weakest discipline actually became, I would venture to say the strongest part of my day that day.
Yeah. Well, the coolest thing about this is you didn't quit, because people who have tendonitis in their ankle and can't run, right? There are people that'll just stop. They'll stop swimming, they'll stop biking, they'll just stop. Instead of stopping, you just basically focused on the other two things, got better at it, got stronger at it, right? And then got back to running when you could get back to running.
Yeah, I went to a PT. He worked with me on my ankle. We gradually built it up after 4 weeks, and I have an Instagram post where I literally ran 400 meters
Yeah.
after a month. And I remember saying in the video, this is like 1/116th of what I need to run
Yeah.
in the race. But it's like it was the first step.
Yeah.
But again, I was committed to it. It was on my vision board. And
Mhm.
every day I wake up to get me closer to what's on this board.
Right.
Right.
That's cool, buddy. That's cool. Well, there's a lot of leadership lessons in this,
Yeah, oh yeah, a lot.
right? And there's a lot of lessons about achievement. So, real quick, over
Mhm.
your shoulder, there's a neon.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's that?
Sorry, I have a postnasal drip that's making me cough.
No worries.
That's the dopamine molecule.
Why, why is it on your wall?
Because who doesn't like dopamine? It's this is I kind of it's
Yeah.
just I
Who
love it.
says no to dopamine, right?
Nobody. One, it's a great conversation starter because just like you, everybody, if I have friends over who don't know about it yet, they're like, "Well, what is that?"
Yeah.
Or if I'm doing a podcast like I am now, I have
Yeah.
it behind me, and it adds great conversation. I don't have a dining room table; I have a ping pong table
I
instead.
love it. That's cool, dude.
My office is in the middle of my living room. Like,
That's cool.
yeah, dopamine.
Okay. Let's talk about ERA real estate for a second, because you're doing some amazing things.
Mhm.
Talk about, so you've been there as the president of the company for how long now?
It'll be a year at the end of June.
Right. So what are you focused on, and what are you doing in terms of deliverables for the agents?
Yeah. So our vision is what I call raving fans and role models. Okay. Raving fans. What do I mean by raving fans? So what I talked about before, the agents are the boss, right? If
Right.
they're not generating revenue, nobody else is generating revenue. So my goal is I need to make sure that our agents, and we have 40,000 of them throughout the world, actually, I got to make sure that our 40,000 agents are raving fans of not only their broker owner, because we're a franchise, right? So
Mhm.
that there's local owners, but of ERA as a brand. And
Right.
again, we talked about is how do you do that? You help them make more money, live a better life. If I
Mhm.
do that, what happens is they're making more money, which in turn makes our broker owners more money, which in turn makes ERA more money. Great.
Right.
What also happens is real estate's a very small, big world. Agents in the marketplace are going to see what's happening and they're like,
Mhm.
what are you doing that you're making more money? What's happening? It's like, oh, my brand's helping me out, blah, blah, blah. They're going to want to join.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden our agents are growing in their business. Our broker owners then become my raving fans because their agents are making more money,
Mhm.
which means they're making more money. They're growing as well in terms of the number of agents that they have. And then I then have a list of 200 plus broker owners that are now my raving fans.
Right.
So that when I go and go to Mike Litton, say, hey, Mike Litton, why don't you become ERA Mike Litton?
Mhm.
I can say, call these 200 broker owners and ask them what it's like to be affiliated with ERA.
Yeah.
Right. So if we do that, what happens then is we become the role model within our parent company, which is called Anywhere Real Estate.
Mhm.
Anywhere Real Estate owns 6 different real estate brands: ERA, Better Homes and Garden, Corcoran, Sotheby's, Century 21, and Coldwell Banker.
Mhm.
I want those other 5 brands to look at us and say, what are they doing that
Mhm.
their per agent production is going up? What are they doing that they're growing in agent count? What are they doing that they're opening up in markets that nobody thought possible? And then all of a sudden we become the role model. And
Yeah.
so that's an elephant. And there's that saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at
Right.
a time. I spend 80% of my time focused on my agents, and I can explain how we do that now. And if I do that, everything else is going to take care of itself.
It's
Literally.
true.
And I have
Absolutely
a
true.
great team that allows me to focus on what I do best, which is that.
Right.
I'm not great at ops and all that stuff. I have a team that's awesome at it, and frees me up to go and do what I want to do.
Right. So how are you making a difference in the lives of your agents?
Sure. Great question. So coaching. Education. Again, something
Mhm.
I wasn't big on, but here I am. So for example, in my 11 months that I've been president of ERA, I've taken, I think, up to, I think it's either 48 or 49 trips to our different franchisees around across the country, leading coaching and educational and motivational events to get them going and getting, whatever it is that they need at that particular time. What we're also doing, and we just launched it, is we're doing a national coaching program that I'm leading alongside my senior vice president of education, where we currently have 3,000 agents participating. The agents cannot attend virtually. They actually have to attend their office. And then as an office, they tune in to me.
Mhm.
And we currently have 244 offices and 3,000 agents participating in the coaching program. So we
That's
have
awesome.
244 watch parties across the country tuning in every Monday, where we not only coach them, but also guide the local leader, the local proctor, as we call it, on what they should be doing as well. And
Right.
we're making direct, as a brand, we're making direct impact in our agents' lives by giving them activities, suggesting activities that they should be doing. And if they do them, they're going to do really, really well.
Gotcha.
Boots on the ground, man. Like a week before I was promoted to president of ERA, when I was running Coldwell Banker here in Dallas, I was out door knocking with one of my agents.
Mhm.
Like, I love that stuff. Like that's where the fun is.
Yeah.
Not the, the fun is in the field.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. So right now, today, given lack of inventory, given high interest rates, given all the frustration, the NAR settlement, all the things that are going on that, for lack of a better term, are considered headwinds in our industry, what can a realtor do today to absolutely turn their business around and become successful?
Like, how long have you been in the business?
32 years,
Hasn't changed.
just a couple of minutes.
Just a couple of minutes. Here's the crazy thing is it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
This is a very, and I know this sounds so crazy. This is a very face-to-face, belly-to-belly, palm-to-palm business. And it was 32 years ago, and it is today. And everybody today wants to use social media.
Mhm.
Everybody today wants to use a CRM. Everybody today wants to use ChatGPT or AI and all that stuff. And it's like, dude, that's great. That will help enhance your business. What are you doing to get in front of your people?
Right.
And what are you doing? There's 2 things. What am I doing to get in face-to-face with my SOI?
Mhm.
And what am I doing to grow my SOI?
Right.
That's it, right? And so it's crazy because if you look at Zillow, and I have a lot of agents throughout my 26 years in the business, so I don't know when Zillow came along, but that have been buying leads from Zillow.
Mhm.
If you ever ask an agent who's bought leads from Zillow, you ask them this one question. All right, you get 10 leads. Out of those 10 leads, how many of them have already done a real estate transaction in your local market? So they've already rented a home, they've already bought a home or sold a home, like whatever. 9 out of 10 times.
Right.
9 out of 10.
Right.
But here they are becoming a lead to you.
Right.
No idea who you are. And everybody wants to blame Zillow. I'm like, no, dude, that's on you. You
Mhm.
never did your job, or realtors did not do their job to check in with their SOI because they don't want to be that realtor. But you can genuinely engage with them without asking them for the business. And so I would tell you, if I would say right now, if I got fired today, I would be checking in with my SOI in a genuine way, and I'd be out door knocking for business. That's what I would do.
Yeah. So we just did a podcast the other day where I was actually interviewed for Lab Coat Agents. And
Yeah.
one of the things that we talked about was, having done what I've done for as long as I've done it, I'm approached on a regular basis by people who are just frustrated. They're some of them are just on their last legs. They're ready to get out of the business altogether. And they don't necessarily like what I tell them, and they're not necessarily all of them going to like what we talked about on that episode, but they've had a tremendous response to it. And now we just did last week we did a real estate mastery event for them, and we had a ton of people on this thing, like 10 times what they normally have. And the reason for it was, it's literally what you're saying, right? Because people will walk up to me and they'll go, look, you own that Keller Williams office for 18 years? Yeah. We have a million questions. Great, fire away. And I'll share with them openly what needs to happen. Okay. There's a thing called the 738-55 rule that is very, very important in our business. And it's 7% of human communication is your ability to communicate with another human being is the words you choose, your vocabulary. 38% is the way you say the words that you choose. And 55%, more than half, is your body language. It's how you carry your physical body. Okay. You add all those up, and 100% of your ability to communicate with another human being is face to face. It's that simple. It's what you just said, right?
Preaching to the choir, man.
I know. So what are the two things people can do to get face to face with prospects? They can door knock, and they can do open houses.
Okay.
Okay.
But here's the thing, Mike. Okay. Think about this for a minute. NAR says, this was like in a 2023 study,
Yep.
that the average consumer knows 12 realtors.
Mhm.
Mike Ferry said it best. If you don't want to call your SOI, it's okay, because somebody else will.
That's right.
And obviously you need to follow the TCPA guidelines to make sure you have a legal right to call somebody. So anybody listening, make sure you have a legal right to call somebody. But then NAR also said that 10 to 12% of an agent's SOI will transact in the next 12 months.
Mhm.
So if you have 200 people in your SOI, that's 20 to 24 transactions
Right.
sitting right here.
Right.
And if you think right now, people are getting married, getting divorced, having kids, kids moving in, kids moving out, job losses, job promotion, job relocations, people are dying. Like, there's all this stuff.
Mhm.
If you could genuinely connect in a way with them, you don't have to ask them for the business, because you're going to connect with them in a way that they're eventually going to ask you, Mike, how's real estate?
Mhm.
Hopefully they don't ask you, are you still in real estate? Because then you've
Right.
done a terrible job of checking in with them.
Right.
That's how you build it. You don't have to, like, back when we were growing up in the business, we were taught to call people and ask them, do you know of anyone that may be interested in buying or selling real estate?
Mhm.
Then the psychology of that changed, and it became, who do you know?
Mhm.
Right? Because you want to ask an open-ended question. I'm like, I don't coach my agents to ask any of that stuff. I coach them on how to genuinely connect with them. And then when that consumer asks you, their wall is down, and now you can have a real deep, meaningful conversation about real estate. The second you bring it up, wall goes up, you get shut down. And that's why realtors don't like calling their SOI.
Yeah. So you pour into them, right? And they end up responding when they have a need, or they know somebody who has a need, they end up responding to you.
That's exactly right.
That's brilliant, dude.
That's the way
That's brilliant. So you just
everything.
bring the value, right? And then when they're ready, you're the call that they make. They might know 12, but you're the one that they're calling.
That's right. And it's by engaging with them in a way that you're not asking them for the business. I think that's really what it is. If you genuinely just made an effort to check in on people and ask them how they're doing and asking them what's going on, again, with enough that's happening, there's a flow to it. I don't, but which is what I coach my agents on, but that's the gist of it. It's amazing how people, again, tonality. If I call you, hey, Mike, how you doing, man? Hey, so listen, I was calling the how are you
Got lost.
Got lost. Yeah. And again, and how you even ask, how are you, is completely different based on your personality. Like, if I call somebody, I'm like, yo, dude, like, what's going on? How you been? Like, I haven't seen you in forever. How you doing? And I physically cover my mouth and I let them speak. It's a completely different, like, not everybody's going to pull that off the way I do.
Yeah.
And I can't pull it off the way other people do, because just speak. That's why I don't believe in scripts either. I believe in, like, what I call bumper lanes in a bowling alley, and be yourself. That's why I don't like AI, or that's why I don't like ChatGPT, because you're letting a computer be you. And again, 12 people, right? And people have a choice with whom they're going to do business, and they're going to do business with people they like and they trust. So let them like you and trust you, right?
You got to be genuine, man. You got to be genuine.
That's it. So
I love it, buddy. I love it. Is there anything else you want to cover before we wrap up?
I think we're good, man. I think if we have questions, feel free. Anybody can. I'm on. Best way to find me is Instagram @Vidal Alex, so last name, first name. If you have any questions, reach out. I'm willing to help anybody out.
Appreciate you, buddy. Thanks so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. This has been fun.
It has been fun. Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram @Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.